Welcome back to To Be Continued. We're your host. I'm Christian.
And I'm Caleb.
And before we get into this episode, let me just say please like, please subscribe, and remember if you want to talk about any different topics, just put it. You can Gmail us, Instagram us. It's down in the description below. But before we get into this video, let me start off by saying this is a spoiler warning. We are going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home and what we thought about it. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, we do not want to spoil you. So please just leave a like and then come back after you've seen it.
Here's what we can do. Why don't we give a brief, 2 or 3 minute review without spoilers, just like was it good or not? And then we'll get an in-depth review. So we'll give a 2 or 3 minutes and then boom. And then we'll warn you and say, okay, here come the spoilers.
That's what we'll do. So
okay.
I'll let you go first on the spoiler-free review.
All right, spoiler-free. Spider-Man No Way Home. Pretty good. Now, I've said before, I've kind of got what I like to call Marvel fatigue, which is Marvel has just made so many movies that I'm just not really excited to see them anymore. But this one was pretty good. And I mean, honestly, if you've seen one Marvel movie, in my opinion, you've kind of seen them all, because they're all really good. I've literally never seen a Marvel movie that I didn't enjoy. Obviously, some are better than others. Some have better stories. Some have that, but all of them are pretty well made. And this is no exception. This is a good movie. It's very entertaining. If you like any of the 3 Spider-Men that there have been, you're going to like these movies, because there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of nods to different things. And if you like Spider-Man, watch this. My review on it, out of 10, 8 out of 10.
Well, we agree the movie's very good, but I don't go very good. I go great. That is the best Marvel movie I've ever been to theaters and watched. It's actually the first Marvel movie in my lifetime I've gone back and seen in the movie theaters multiple times. And I loved everything about the movie. And here's how great the movie was. It pulled at my heartstrings not once, but twice. I cried at the same scenes the second time as I did the first time. And I think he was too, but I couldn't 100%, so I don't know if he had the sniffles.
No, I don't cry.
Or there was dust, or there was a little bit of dust in the air.
No.
But
I actually didn't really get emotional watching that movie.
You see, I did. I did. There was some heartstrings pulled. But
might be because I think you in general like Spider-Man more than I do. So to me, anything that happened to him, I didn't care. They could have killed off Spider-Man, I wouldn't care.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong, but my favorite will always be Captain America. I mean, Chris Evans. I've always loved Chris.
So your favorite is the worst Avenger.
I hate.
That's another topic for another day.
That's another topic.
The worst Avenger. It's Chris Evans.
But if I was gonna rate this movie out of 10, I'm giving it a 12 out of 10. It was such a good movie.
It was a really good movie, but I wouldn't say it's perfect.
But that now ends our spoiler free.
All right. If you don't want any spoilers, turn it off now. Then come back later.
So I'm gonna start this off by saying, with the spoilers, I've never my favorite. There were so many great scenes in that movie. I mean, from the pastor joke to the Goblin. I mean, wow, William Dafoe. Whew, that was a great performance. I loved how they showed what Spider-Man always does. Spider-Man always makes a sacrifice. No matter what, he cares about everybody else more than he does Peter Parker. And I know you didn't really like the ending, because you're like, how come he didn't get the win? I understand that. But, I'm sorry, I totally took your thunder. But what I mean by this is, the reason he didn't take MJ back at the end when he lost everything and he promised her she was, when he was in that donut shop, he looked at her. He saw Ned, he saw they were in MIT, he was like, wait, when she was with me, she wasn't able to get in there. And then he was like, well, still, that was going to happen anyway. And then MJ moved her hair. And you know what he saw? He saw the cut right above her eye.
She got hurt because of him.
He got hurt because of him. No, she. Not
she got
she,
hurt,
she,
yeah.
not
she,
he.
she is a she.
Her pronouns are he.
Yeah. Her. You still can't cut it right. It's she.
Sorry, Michelle.
She's not a he.
Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is, you understood where he was coming from. And I think my favorite part about the ending was even though it took a different way to get there, we finally got to see the growth of Peter Parker. And to me, it was the first trilogy of Spider-Man that actually grew each movie. Because with the Sam Raimi trilogy, it grew for 2 movies. I mean, Spider-Man 1, awesome. Spider-Man 2, wow. Spider-Man 3,
He just went nuts.
really?
I'm
I'm gonna kick some dirt in your eye.
He just went nuts.
Bully Maguire. And then we get to The Amazing Spider-Man, and this movie capitalized everything. I mean, before I even get into The Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, congratulations, you stole the show. You were a great actor in that movie. I mean, when you saved MJ from her death, and we could all tell in your eyes how much pain that was, because I tried to explain this to my little brother when we went and seen it, that when he saved her, the reason he was also so sad, he was thinking about that same part for 10 years. He was like, if I just did this, I could have saved Gwen. If I just did this, I could have saved Gwen. And to see it finally work, and he was like, oh, man. And you could just tell the pain in his eyes. And I'm still sad we never got an Amazing Spider-Man 3, because even though they alluded to it, we never got to see what happened with Andrew Garfield after the death of Gwen. Because he said there was a point I stopped pulling my punches. And we never got to see that with Andrew. Now we got to see it with Tom in this movie. And you can tell me if I'm crazy or not, but to me, that fist fight he had with Goblin at the end was the best hand-to-hand combat fight we've had in Spider-Man movies.
Probably, because most of the time Spider-Man's not fighting a human. He's fighting like Doc Ock or Green Goblin or somebody that's not using hand-to-hand combat. So the bar's kind of low.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I mean, they had a pretty good fight in. I remember. Well, I guess it's not even hand-to-hand combat in Civil War when he was in there. But I don't really remember that scene well. I just remember that he stole the show. Don't remember the scene well because the movie was a pile of hot garbage because it was about Captain America.
That hurts. But another scene. But I also love. What I loved about the movie as well was all the callbacks it had. And one of the callbacks that just keeps hitting me in the back of the brain is when we're talking about the scene where he was fighting Goblin, but Maguire saved somebody from being killed from a Green Goblin glider. This time he stopped Goblin from dying to Peter. And I think a lot of people didn't understand that because I've watched other reviews and people were like, well, why would he really stop that? And it was like, were you guys just not paying attention? He was trying to make sure that...
Yeah, he was showing that he'd grown. He was a good youth pastor.
That was the joke in the movie. I love that joke. But it was just so much fun to see him say, hey, yes, we have loss, but this loss is supposed to elevate you. Don't let it bring you down and hurt you. And and I loved how they were able to make sure that Tom Holland didn't have the same horrible arc and downspin that Maguire had, or that Garfield was going to have. But another thing that I thought was greatly underrated, I know we never got Uncle Ben, but Aunt May, I think that with great power comes great responsibility. I think that speech hit on a different level than any of the ones that Uncle Ben did. And for this one reason. When Uncle Ben was talking about with great power comes great responsibility, he was just talking about life. He didn't know that Peter was Spider-Man. Aunt May, she knew he was Spider-Man. So she wanted to make sure that he knew with his power, there also comes responsibility. But that was the scene right there that actually pulled at my heartstrings the most. When she died, I was like, oh, man. But it was so predictable, but it was still like...
See, we differ quite a bit there because I thought that sentence was kind of cringe. With great power comes great responsibility. Like, we've seen that so many times, and you knew it was coming, and it's like, you could have done without it.
I'll give you that. And then you have the funniest line, when they were all talking about being in a team, and then Tom Holland's like, I don't want to brag or anything, but I was in the Avengers. And Toby's like, oh, cool! What's that?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a really good movie. So I don't, when I start my critique, I don't want to sound like I'm being a hater because it was a really good movie and I really enjoyed it.
He's a hater.
It's a lot of fun. It was a fun movie to watch. It's one that I would definitely watch again. And there's not like a whole lot of issues with it, except for me, the issue is Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, for one, is pretty weak in the movie. Like he's pretty weak in general. Like he gets beat up by Toby basically and locked in the Mirrorverse, which is not Toby, by Tom. And so that's don't think that would have actually happened. But also, he just starts casting this spell that can destroy the universe just on a whim. He doesn't even like think it through at all. And that is just not something that I could see Doctor Strange doing. You got this Doctor Strange that is so calculated that in like Infinity Wars and Endgame, he looks through like a billion different possible outcomes, but then this one's just like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Here you go. Well, I feel bad for you, Peter.
Well, he alluded to it before he even got into it. He couldn't do that part anymore because remember he lost the time stone.
Yeah, but he still could have like thought it through instead of just, oh, here, I'm going to start this spell.
But then we would have never had the movie.
I know, but see, that's to me where like that's what keeps it from being like a 10 out of 10. Like,
and I agree with you. I agree. I don't understand what he was doing, but yet again, I don't think I wanted him.
Essentially, he comes off as an idiot. That's a dumb thing to do. Hindsight's 20/20, but that was a dumb thing to do.
But I mean, I think there was a funny part though when he got back from the Mirrorverse. But if I have one big critique, I want to understand how did Ned use the magic just so easily?
Yeah,
that was my biggest critique. I'm like, Doctor Strange lasted a whole movie trying to learn how to use it, and Ned just whoop-de-doo.
Well, see what that is? It's Disney repeating their errors. They did the same thing with Star Wars. If you remember in, what was it, The Force Awakens, was that the first one back?
Oh,
when Rey can just do things that it took Luke like 4 movies to be able to do. And then the Stormtrooper, I forget his name. What's his name? I forget. Finn is all of a sudden just a lightsaber fighter. You just pick it up and fight with it. When it took all those other ones so much. And they can beat this Sith Lord that's been training for years. After not like, come on, guys, that's just too much. It's stupid. And Disney did it again. They did it. They were like, "Oh, this worked out so well. We just ruined Star Wars. Let's do it to Doctor Strange too."
They're just lucky that Marvel's never been done prior to this, because I don't know if you agree with me here, but I don't count the Disney 3 movies. And when people say how many Star Wars films are there, I say 6.
Yeah, there's 6.
And
absolutely.
Here's how bad this sequel trilogy was for Star Wars. It made the prequels look good.
Well, I like the prequels.
I always did too, but there's a lot of people that don't.
Yeah, a lot of people were haters. I think the haters are people that maybe saw Star Wars originally, and then
I grew up with the prequels, so I love the prequels.
Yeah, I saw the prequels in theaters. I didn't get to see the originals in theaters because I'm not 60 years old. But so maybe it would be different that way, but it's not. So to me, I thought the prequels were pretty good, and I thought obviously the original 3 are the best 3. And then you've got the prequels, and then after that, that's it. That's where Star Wars ends for me. Nothing else.
But now to get back to Spider-Man, though, but there was this thing, somebody had a defense for it, and it still made no sense. And they said the reason that Ned was able to use the power and Doctor Strange wasn't at the beginning, because Doctor Strange was a scientist and he didn't really understand magic, and he didn't think magic had any chance of being real. While Ned, he was already accepting of the magic. And I was just like, I still don't think that defends it very well, but I guess in a weird way it sort of makes sense. Not really, but a little more than where I was going with my brain.
I think what's interesting is that his grandmother or whatever had said that like they had magic in their family or whatever. Yeah. He did like give us that. And so I thought that was kind of interesting, like, oh, maybe he's got something in his family line of somebody.
Still doesn't mean you should be able to open
portals. But yeah, still, it's like, yeah. I think people are going to ignore that, though, just because they like Ned. He's kind of a cool character.
Hey, I'm telling you, Ned's going to become a villain soon. You think I'm crazy?
I think so. I don't know.
I'm telling you.
I'm okay with Spider-Man being done, but I was okay with the Avengers being done, and they're not done. They just keep making movies.
Well, we haven't seen the Avengers since 2019.
Yeah, but then they made Black Widow. They're making a Hawkeye series. Like, just
hey, Hawkeye series. I just finished the episode today. It was great.
Spider-Man.
But anyway, let's get to your critiques, Mr. Hater.
So that's really my main critique. Is you got that one. Aunt May. You know, I didn't think she had to die. That's an ultimate spoiler, but I didn't think that had to happen, but it did. Whatever. Doc Ock was cool. This is not a negative. I like that Doc Ock became a good guy. Yeah. That was a kind of a cool twist.
Hi, Peter. That hurt my heart too when he was like, the power of the sun in my hands.
And I don't like the ending. I think the ending kind of took it from being a Marvel movie to a rom-com. Like, I felt like somebody had switched the movie reels to The Notebook. Because all of a sudden, you've got all this fighting and all these epic battle scenes. You've got 3 Spider-Men slinging around, doing all this crazy stuff, fighting all of our favorite villains from Spider-Man. And then all of a sudden, it's like the sappy music hits and it turns into a soap opera. Where it's like, oh, I've got to say goodbye to everyone that I've ever loved. And now he's basically just Steven Glansberg on his own. And like, yeah, I get that he sacrificed so much, and so that's a cool part about it. But I just feel like it didn't have to happen. Didn't have to happen that way. And it also would have been cool if maybe like their love had transcended the curse, right? Like if he walked in and it just like hit her like, Peter.
Well, before I get into defending this, I want you to think about something. So this movie picks up right from the end of Far From Home, and there's so much chemistry between Zendaya and Tom Holland. But if you really think about it, they were only in a relationship for like a week.
True.
And then here's the thing what I think I love the most about this ending is the one flaw that this whole Tom Holland trilogy has had. We've never really got to see Tom Holland fight on his own. And their always flaw with him was, oh, he's Tony Stark's kid. He's Tony Stark. Tony Stark. Well, I loved how with the ending, with the new beginning, he also made his new suit. And I think with this new trilogy that's going to be coming in about 5 years, we're finally going to get to embrace Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Because to me, this movie did put him above Tobey. And the only reason I say that is, with the one flaw that Andrew and Tobey always had, they were playing a high schooler and they didn't look like a high schooler. Tom, if you told me he's in high school right now, I wouldn't. He looks like a high schooler to me. He actually portrays the role, and with this new trilogy that's going to be coming in, we're going to get to see something that we never got to see before.
In the first Spider-Man, he did kind of look like a high schooler. Like the original Spider-Man with Tobey. When they're going on that field trip, that scene just kind of like sticks out to me. He did look pretty young then. And he was pretty dorky and all that stuff. Had kind of nothing going for him. Except his brain. He's very smart.
Yes, he was very smart. So is Tom.
I feel like Tom's not quite as smart as Tobey, but
he worked with the Avengers, thank you.
Yeah, just because you know smart people doesn't make you smart.
Who? Is that a band?
Yeah, exactly.
So would you like fresh or salt water? When that man asked him.
Yeah.
But with Spider-Man, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I was going to go into that movie with high expectations already just because Andrew and Tobey were coming back and we had all these villains. But before I get into my final conclusion, there is one villain that actually stole the show. Not as much as William Dafoe did. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but Jamie Foxx was hilarious. And I think he was great as Electro. And with this movie that came out and all the fan love with it, I don't know if you've seen, but there's rumors, and Sony's even said they're working on trying to get Andrew Garfield's trilogy back and rolling, and they're going to get us Venom Tom Hardy versus Andrew Garfield. And the reason Tobey didn't end up dying at the end was they're going to bring him back for another Marvel project called Secret Wars. And in the comics, this all makes sense, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm so glad we get to see more of the Spider-Man, because when the movie ended, it was just like, really, is that really going to be the last time we see Tobey and Andrew on screen as Spider-Man? Because it didn't seem like that should be the way we finally say goodbye to them.
I lost interest pretty much as soon as you started talking about these future projects and all these things. Like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I'll watch it when it comes out. I'm not going to look forward to it.
Yeah, it's just like us thinking about the Rams' future Super Bowls. That would never happen.
Okay. That's got nothing to do with Spider-Man.
Sorry. Cheap shot.
Stay on task. Rams will win one before the Colts, though.
We'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching this episode of To Be Continued, and we hope you guys enjoyed Spider-Man and enjoyed this episode. Until next time.
To be continued.